Hi, I'm Dr. Rachel Haviland, and I'm here with Dr. Jessica Hairston. She's a psychiatrist and founder of Empathic Wellness Consultants. And in this video, we're going to talk about empathy, which, considering everything that's going on at the moment, is a really important subject and something that is very close to Dr. Jessica's heart. So, Jessica, what is your definition of empathy?
Great question, Dr. Haviland. So empathy is when you consider your own needs, then the needs of others, and then hold them equal. The distinction being that you're talking about needs versus feelings.
I think that's a really interesting approach because when I think about empathy, the definition that I've always heard really is walking in somebody else's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And your definition is clearly different to that.
Yes, it's a really important distinction because honestly, we really can't walk in someone else's shoes. We can walk in our own shoes and try to apply their circumstances, but we're really not walking in someone else's past, present, or a set of experiences. So we're not really walking into someone else's shoes. So I think this definition of empathy is much more accurate and it's much more relatable. Case in point, that when you experience empathy, there's a real sense of satisfaction and feeling understood.
Mm-hmm. Like a deeper connection.
Yes, a much deeper connection than someone who has as a third party taken on your experience in their own way. So
right, so that was what I thought when you said that, and we were talking about walking in somebody else's shoes. It's very hard to if I haven't had the same upbringing, the same experiences, the same education, the same relationships as that person. How can I even imagine what it's like to walk in their shoes?
Exactly. And that framework is not really feasible. I really think it's more important to listen attentively to the person that is that you're talking to and really hear their experience. Mm-hmm. and just be attentive to that because they will tell you what it is to walk in their own shoes. And then you give that value versus giving value to your construct of walking into their shoes, walking in their shoes.
Yeah, that's an interesting difference. So then more confusion arises when you think of words like sympathy. So how does empathy differ from sympathy?
Okay. So sympathy is more of that walking in someone else's shoes, is trying to understand someone else's feelings. Empathy, and this is a definition that is based in part on the work of Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, talks about needs. And needs are different because needs are the sources of feelings. So you experience a feeling when your needs are either met successfully or not met. Mm-hmm. So an example of a need is let's say food. An example, that's a very concrete example. A more intangible example would be beauty or solitude. Mm-hmm. These are things that are actually necessary to our lives for us to feel a sense of satisfaction. So without that, there's a sense of distress. And that distress or the different types of and varieties of feelings you have kind of indicate and point to, oh, there's something amiss. So what is amiss is that there's a need that's not met. And most people don't look at their needs. Not even conscious of them or aware of them at all. So when it comes to satisfying yourself, you spend so much time in these trial and error methods of adjusting your feelings when actually you need to really look at what needs are being missed and overlooked.
So you're saying that the best way to discover those needs, if you're the one giving empathy, is to actually listen to the person and to ask them what it is that they need.
Well, many times this is such a new concept that many people are not aware of what their needs are. Mm-hmm. The best way to first understand is to look at yourself and look at what needs you have in your own life. So that's the first part of the empathy definition is, okay, what are your needs? If you don't know what are your needs, then you really can't give empathy because you'll find yourself overextending, overgiving, and feeling frustrated and angry and resentful because you didn't meet your own needs. And so it's really important to examine your needs first, then examine someone else's needs, and then give them equal importance. That, once again, that's the definition of empathy. Because once you examine your needs, then you can properly address the needs of others. Like if you haven't taken care of your food, clothing, shelter situation, how are you going to address someone else's?
Mm-hmm. And that's really interesting that the definition implies that your needs are important too.
Absolutely. Equally important.
Equally important, yes, because in many cases when we see somebody who needs empathy and needs our help, we have a tendency to put their needs before ours.
Right, and it's I think it's important that we regard other people's needs. That is half the equation. But once again, if you are putting other people's needs before your own, then there's a potential of subjugating yourself. Mm-hmm. Putting yourself in
that kind of self-sacrifice.
Yeah, much greater difficulty. Whereas if you were to actually look at the situation with intention, you could satisfy both. So the question isn't, well, isn't it good to put someone else's needs as important or first? It's very good to consider someone else's needs. But if you can satisfy your own needs and someone else's, isn't that the best situation?
I think that's a wonderful approach to empathy. Thank you so much, Dr. Jessica, for sharing today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Haviland. I look forward to talking with you again.